much energy. Put in your booby rocks. Live your best life. Keep doing you. So much energy. Let's stick together with some high kicks. Bow, bow. All right, everybody, welcome back to this episode. I think we're at episode 231. No, 232. Just kidding. Test. Hello. Mic check.
Like working with Dad.
Right. All right, everybody. Welcome to this episode of 232 of So Much Energy. It's me, Jenny McKinney, and I have special guest here. His name is Jeff Jones. He's a metal fabricator. He is an industrial welder, and he is the shitter of all bulls.
You a-hole.
It's Jeff Jones.
Jen, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, last week was solo. Good to have you back as
Last
a
week
co-host.
was with Dad.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
was. That was a good episode. The August.
Oh, yeah. August so much-
episode of the Round
The
Table.
round table. It was like a triangle, though, because there was only three of us.
Well, it's because it was short notice.
Yeah, it was. And he was already ready, so we just kept with it.
Yep.
Yeah, he's geriatric, so we got to be on his little senior citizen schedule.
You didn't get that. He tried to record at like 12:30 at night.
No. Oh, I know he would at 2 a.m. You guys
That's
busy?
his schedule. You guys
Yeah.
doing anything?
You busy? I can fit you on my YouTubes. Stupid. All right, so super fun and excited. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this episode for a long time. We have our friend Jess Nichol here, and Jess is a coach. She's a human design specialist. She's into astrology and chakras, and she's the owner of Wild Goddess Revolution. So she's going to be here today to share more information about human design and answer all our questions that we might have. So, hey, welcome, Jess. We're excited you're here.
Yay, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh, man. And Jess is, we have a mastermind group that we get together, I would say once a month. It was once a month. Some things happened at some point, but we get together once a month and just kind of share energy and ideas and, yeah, really just mastermind about business and fun woo-woo things.
Nice.
Yeah, good
Nice.
times. So, Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you got into things, and we'll talk about the design of humans.
Yes, definitely. I'd say I've just always been this curious person who's like, why does that work? How does that work? And wanting these answers. And it eventually led me to human design, because human design is this really cool combination of the chakra system, and like the tree of life, the tropical astrology, the Chinese I Ching, and then like modern science. And I'm really obsessed with the chakra system. I'm really obsessed with tropical astrology. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like bringing together a lot of these things that I really enjoy and kind of like making it better, or making it, give you a better picture of what's going on. And I was like, ooh, I want to know more about this. And so I just started studying it and got to a point where I'm like, oh, I can, other people make sense to me now. I'm to the point where I'm like, oh, you want to be friends? Like, I need your birth info. I'm not going to break it. I don't need your passwords. Like, I just need to pull your chart.
Right.
I swear I'm not going to like steal your information. I really need to know who you are on a soul level.
Yeah. That's interesting. Have you ever had to break up with somebody before you could be friends just because of their chart?
No.
Okay.
I guess I didn't find it early enough for that, but
yeah.
I'm also not in the camp. There are some people out there who believe like, oh, well, you're a this type, like we can't be friends. And I don't agree with that. I don't believe that we should hire someone or be friends with somebody based on their chart. I just think it helps me understand someone for who they are and where they're coming from. And then for myself and others, I'm like, oh, that's just how they operate. Like, it's kind of this level of like forgiveness, but also this level of just appreciation and understanding. Like, that's just the mechanics of who they are. Like, why am I trying to change that? They're so awesome.
Yeah. I love that too, because I find too, so I took a class from Jess. She was doing a human design class here. That's how we met. It was just worked out. Oh, we met from haircuts. That's right. Energetic haircut. I had done a haircut on our mutual friend, and then Jess said, "Who cut your hair? I love it." And then came and I cut her hair. And then I took her class, which was magic. But I love that you just love everybody for who they are, and it's almost like it can cut through the crap, right? Because you don't have to go, oh, that hurt my feelings, oh, maybe they're just this, or maybe they're just that. It's just an understanding right off the get.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's really fun, and it's pretty new. So the system was channeled in 1987, so not too long ago. Like, this is a pretty new system that we're using. Like, tropical astrology is like thousands of years old. The chakra system, thousands of years old. Like, a lot of these other systems have a lot of this very rich history. And this guy came in, I forget his real name, but he chose a new name. He's Whooo, and he channeled this system, and I mean, it just kind of works really well. And so I think it's gained a lot of popularity pretty fast, considering it's not that old.
Right.
And people really enjoy it and are getting more and more excited about it, more curious about it. And they're like, ooh, tell me more about me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So can you tell us, so we know where it came from, and can you kind of just tell us, even on a preschool level, in case our listeners have no idea what even human design is? I mean, I know that we're all humans, and I guess we would have a design because we made it here, right? So if you can kind of just tell us what is human design? Okay,
so I like to think of it, if you have a house and you've got all those like blue maps with the white on it, like you've got your like electrical map and your like, where stuff goes map. This is if somebody could give that to you for you. It's like your electrical circuits. And how we get this map is, imagine when you were born, somebody had this giant camera and they could take a picture of all the stars, and they're just like, click. Okay, yep, sun is in this position, earth is in this position, and you kind of go down through, and I call it a star snapshot, because that's kind of like, where was everything the moment you were born? And that's the basis of astrology. But human design also takes it back, and they do kind of the same thing 88 days before you were born. And so if you pull up your human design chart, you're going to be like, this looks like hieroglyphics. But the black side is like your natal chart. Like, oh, we took a picture of the stars when you were born. The red side is we took a picture of the stars 88 days before you were born. And then that gives us some numbers that we can play with. Like, oh, the sun happened to be in this specific position when you were born. So a lot of people are probably more familiar with like, oh, I'm a Virgo. Or I'm a Libra, or I'm an Aries. And it's that, but we're going to turn the volume way up. Like, it's not just what sign is it in, it's what house is it in, what gate is it in, what activations does that cause. And now it's kind of like this giant puzzle that we get to put together of like, ooh, this piece is me, this piece is me. And I'm sure people out there listening have had the experience, where you sit down, you read your horoscope, and you're like, oh, Virgos are having this right now, or, Capricorns are experiencing this, and it like kind of hits, but not really. And that's because that's like really general. Yeah. Whereas this is like, this is who you are, this is how you operate, and let's make that a little bit easier, right? Because we're not all the same. And I mean, that's pretty obvious. You walk outside and all these people are doing different things, they're motivated differently. And, how do we figure that out, but for ourselves, so that we can go through life really easy?
Yeah. Can you, since you mentioned the 88 days, can you just share why the 88 days is significant? Why did he pick 88 days?
So it comes up in a couple different places. This is like our unconscious and our like genetics and ancestry according to human design. But when you look at it biologically, around that time is pretty significant. Like our brain is developing. In Ayurveda, it was when the soul comes into the body. If you've ever done like a sound healing, there's a certain point in pregnancy where they're like, you're not allowed in the sound healing because the baby can't consent, because I've had to leave a sound healing thing before when I was pregnant. And so it's interesting, like in human design, it's this very specific 88 days, but it actually corresponds to like, you know, where the baby is developmentally, and then these other things that have come along generations, like, oh, the soul has entered the body, like this is a new level, right? Like it's not just like a couple cells growing, now we've got a brain in there.
Yeah, gotcha. Do you have a question, Jeffy?
Can you change your human design, or is it's based on the time and the day you were born and all of that, so you can't really do anything to alter that?
No, so
it just is what it is.
Yep, it is. The date, time, and location of your birth are how you would pull your chart.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't matter if you were supposed to be born on this day. Your chart is not for that day. Your chart is for the exact time you were born, the date, and then linking it 88 days before your exact time that you got here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So you are who you are.
Right. Yeah. And so do you think it would be easier to start with a chart reading, or do you feel like it would be easier to start with like going through the different types of human design?
Let's go through the types so we get like the high level overview. I'll give you a little bit more of, you know, what this is.
Okay.
And I can just go into that. Ra referred to human design as the science of differentiation, and it kind of like illustrates how unique and different we all are, but I also think it shows us how connected we are. And in human design, this kind of came about, he gives the date 1781. So we transition from the 7-centered being. So if you've ever seen the chakra rainbow, like going straight up the spine, we are a 7-centered being. He says, according to him, in 1781, we transitioned into this 9-centered being. So a more evolved being, and a new type came online, and we'll go into types in a little bit. And you know, so this is a pretty new system, and that's, you know, supposedly why, you know, we're just now hearing about it, because he channeled it in 1987. And when you start diving into the realm of human design, which, by the way, it's an Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. Like if you're into it, you're just gonna fall in, you're gonna drink all the potions, it's gonna be wonderful. But when you're doing that, the big 3 things that come up are your type, and your strategy, and your authority. And those things are like the big pieces that are like, how do I operate in this world, and how can I do that in a way that is the best and most aligned for me? So there are 5 different types, and they're determined by how the centers in the chart connect to each other. So when you pull your chart up, it's gonna have these 5 different centers, and some might be colored in and some might not be. And depending on how that happens, that kind of determines what type you are. And the strategy is kind of really linked to the type, so you don't really have one without the other. This is how you interact with and exist in the world without resistance. So you're not going to have those separated. So the biggest type that we have, this is 70% of our population. These are the generators, and they're kind of split into 2 groups. There's manifesting generators and generators. So if we're talking about pure generators, they're about 37% of the population, and they're the builders, and the life force of the planet, and they're the ones that can listen to their gut, like have that gut feeling. And I think of them as like the worker bees, because they're like the ones here to like, they're generators. They're like that Energizer bunny. They've got all this energy. They're just going to build stuff. They're going to keep going and going and going. And then you've got the Mani-gens, and they're more like a moment of truth. They're like a worker bee if it was a hummingbird, and it's, you know, like a little bit over here, a little bit over there. They're like a little bit more all over the place. Jen and I are both Mani-gens, so we get that. You know, we're just a little bit extra. Yeah.
Jeff Jones's face, like,
A little bit.
Like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the generator types, we're here to wait for something to respond to. So, like, oh hey, do you want to go get pizza tonight? And feeling that answer, and, you know, going from there. So we're waiting to respond. That's our strategy. And when we're not in alignment, we feel very frustrated. So that's kind of like a telltale thing in generator types, Mani-gens and generators. Like, you're starting to get frustrated. You're probably not living in alignment. You're probably like, something's off. You're not listening to yourself. Then we've got the projector type. So this is what Jeff is. He's a projector. They're 20% of the population, and they're the guides. And their gift is to understand under others, and they thrive on like recognition and inclusion. And their strategy is to wait for their specific qualities to be recognized and be invited. So like the projector strategy is to be invited into things. And when they're kind of out of alignment, projectors are going to feel really bitter. Like they're just going to be so bitter about the situation. And I like to think of projectors as like the foremans. Like they're on, like they can see all this stuff going on. There's all these worker bees, but they're like, okay, we need this group over here. We need these ones over here. We need these things brought over here. Like they're kind of directing everything, telling everybody where to go, but they don't have the energy that the worker bees do. They're not up and running and going all crazy, right? Like they're just like, okay, we need to do this. We need to do this. They're like bringing it all together. Then we've got manifestors, who are about 9% of the population. And they're the initiators. They're here to have a really powerful impact. Back in the day, they used to be like the kings and queens. Like they're making things happen. And their strategy is they need to inform others of their decisions before they take action so that they don't have as much resistance. So it's not asking permission. It's just being like, hey, I'm going to go do this. Like it's kind of getting people on board versus just going and doing it. And when they're out of alignment, they're angry. Like they're just angry. And I like to, if you've ever seen the movie Frozen 2 with the little lizard who is the fire spirit, and that little lizard just goes around and is setting everything on fire, just like that is a manifestor energy. Like they're just going and doing it. They're just, and all with reckless abandon. And then our fifth type is reflectors, and they are 1% of the population, so they are super rare. They're the discerners. They're here to be the judges of humanity and to reflect back the injustices humanity inflicts on itself, and they're supposed to have clear vision. And their strategy is actually to wait an entire lunar cycle before they make decisions. And that's because, so a reflector has nothing, like none of the centers are colored in their charts, so they're very open is the terminology we would use. But waiting a moon cycle, the moon is going to move through every gate and kind of activate them so that by the end of a lunar cycle, they have some perspective on what it is they're trying to make a decision about. And when they're out of alignment, they're going to feel really disappointed. So that's kind of their guiding post.
Oh, quick question. How long is a lunar cycle?
Those are, yes, 28 point something days.
Yes.
So
I just
like
want to clarify.
full moon.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time to make a
Or, like,
decision.
Yes. And, you know, as you get to know yourself and you're feeling this type of stuff, like you get better at listening to yourself and trusting yourself. The fascinating thing and the thing I really enjoy about human design, even if you're like, this is baloney, I don't believe in it, the piece that I think anybody and everybody can take away is that at no point are any of us making decisions with our minds. Our authority and doing this and being in alignment is listening to our bodies. It's where we're listening to our bodies at, how we're listening to our bodies to make it easier based on your type. But it's our truth is coming from ourselves and not externally, which I'm pretty sure every system's going to agree with that regardless. So, yeah. Do you want me to go into authority?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was strategy and type. So the other big one is our authority. And again, this is based on what is lit up in your chart. And so this is how we make our wise decisions. We're not making them from the mind. This is like our intuition. And our mind is there because it's to process information. Like our mind is our supercomputer, but it's not meant to make the final decision. Our body is. And so there's a hierarchy of authority, and what that means is depending on what's lit up in your chart, if something is lit up and something else is, one of them's going to trump the other, and it's going to be the thing that you decide with. So like Jeff and I are both emotional authorities, and that is like the be all end all. Like if your emotional center is lit up, you're an emotional authority. That's the one you're going with. And that's the solar plexus center. And when we're making a decision from an aligned place, we are being emotionally clear. And so that's finding emotional clarity regardless of the storm, right? Like if you're riding a big wave and you're like, oh, I'm feeling really great about this now, I'm feeling very low about this, like, right, like that's not a place to make a decision. And so you don't want to be in a high, you don't want to be in a low, you just want to feel those emotions, kind of let them flow and get to that place where you're just like, okay, you know what, like I'm not like supercharged, I'm not real low, but like I'm good. This is a solid decision. And this can take days, depending on the decision, right? Like I have felt my emotional wave over like, oh, do I want to go for coffee today? And that might take a few minutes. But like, do I want to move to California? Like I'm going to need to ride that wave for a long time.
Right.
So I think that wave depends on the weight of the decision and, the voices you're hearing, right? Because if you're hearing a lot of people's voices and they're causing you to ride that wave longer, then that's not a clear kind of neutral place. And it's just going to feel right when you get there. And then our next authority is a sacral authority. And the only types that are going to have a sacral authority are going to be the generator types, because that's one of the hallmarks of being a generator is your sacral is defined. And so, but you could also be like, I'm a generator type, but I'm an emotional authority because that one supersedes this one. So the sacral authority is follow your gut, and this is only effective when you're in response. So it's not proactive, it's responsive. You have to be like, ooh, like you try something on at the store and you're like, oh, like, yeah, I look good in this. Like, or like you go to a car lot and you're trying to pick out a car and you're just like, that red one over there, you're like seeing something, you're responding to it. And I've heard people refer to this as the generator grunting. It's like, or like getting that more primal, like, like, yeah, oh yeah, like that one. And you're not really like thinking about it. It's just like that, like quick response. Again, it's coming from your body. So like listen to your gut. Like it's so interesting when you like get into human design and authority, you hear these different terms of like how to listen to your intuition. And then this breaks it down for like, oh, this type can do that. So if anybody out there has ever been told to listen to their gut and it doesn't feel right for them, maybe because that's not your authority. And so maybe that's why it felt off. So we'll keep going, because there's people out there who don't have that. And they're just like, I don't know, I never really get a gut response.
Oh.
It's like, maybe you don't.
Quick question before we move on. So going back to emotional, you said it's in the solar plexus. Can you just describe for our listeners where solar plexus is, so that if they don't know, they can know where to feel that?
It's like our yellow. So if you've seen the chakra chart, it would be the yellow one, but the yellow one has split into two in this version. And so it's more your emotions. So it's how do you feel your emotions? Where do you feel your emotions? And then getting to a place of calm in the emotions.
Okay.
So mine's kind of, I don't know that I have a spot as much as I'm just like, oh, I know I'm not emotionally like revved up, or, you know, I'm not making a decision from an emotional place. So it's
okay
when you're calm and you're not trying to make it from a mental rational place either.
Gotcha.
So it's,
well, I was just trying to,
this could play into,
yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, depending on where your moon falls in your chart.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how you're going to process and feel emotions too. So there's lots of pieces that can come into where and how you feel that.
Okay, gotcha. Only because I am sacral, so I understand that I have a lot of feeling. So sacral is just above the tailbone, right? Like in your pelvic part.
Yes.
So I can feel that, like I can actually feel like it's that's why I resonate a lot with like drumming, lower vibration, like the grunting, things like that, you know what I mean, like more primal things. That's where it's in the sacral. So yes, I can resonate with that.
Yeah. And your solar plexus is the next one up, so it's like belly button, like center kind of area.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask too. So if somebody's an emotional authority and has a lot of upset stomach, could that be because they're coming from an emotional place? Like it might not necessarily be something to do technically with your stomach or your intestines. Oh
yeah, for sure, especially because we're not taught to flow through our emotions. We're taught to suppress them, we're taught to oppress them, we're taught to ignore them, we're taught to shove them way down. And so learning to listen to, flow through your emotions, like that sounds so easy, but like that's not how that works. And then there's like the trauma that gets, you know, stacked on top of this, and the trauma that's stored in our bodies. And then it can be really hard and really scary when someone comes in and goes, oh, you just listen to your body. And it's like, my body may not be a safe place to be, and I've been hiding in my mind a long time. And so yeah, like it's easier said than done,
right?
And there's things we can do to help you get there, because again, this is your blueprint of living in alignment of who you are and what works best for you. I didn't say it was easy, and it sounds really simple.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, sorry, go ahead with the other authorities.
Okay, so our next one down is the spleen, which is they call it the splenic authority. So this is also solar plex, so like belly button level, and it is instant decisions. And the spleen is really interesting because it's like super fast. Like it is going to tell you one time. It is not going to repeat itself. You're not going to get like the gut. You can be like, are we sure we want this? Are we sure you can ask your gut over and over again. The spleen is like, if you're not listening and you're not paying attention, it's gone. I like to think of it as like a tingly, spidey sense. Mine's defined, and every so often I can feel it, but it's not my ultimate decision maker. But I have a friend who it is theirs, and so they will like describe it to me, and it's so fascinating to hear their experience, because it's like, yeah, like I walked to this restaurant and just like got this weird sense, and you know, do you choose to stay or do you choose to go, right? Like that's what you're making your decisions off of, is this very quick one-time voice thing. And it is of the awareness centers, it is the quietest, and it's kind of like a whisper to you, and it's going to come in through like taste, smell, touch, feel. Like it's real subtle, so you have to be listening, you have to be ready, and you have to trust it, right? Like with all of these things, with any aspect of our intuition and what our body's trying to tell us, it's always trying to tell you something. It's, are you willing and ready to listen? And are you going to honor it when it gives you the answer? So it's a process of like trusting yourself, trusting the signals you're getting, even if they're really, really quiet, and being able to be like, oh, gotta go. The vibe, you know, can't stay here. My spidey sense told me not to.
Right.
You know, and this is why I think human design is fun, because then if your group of friends is like, oh, Sheila said we gotta go, like then everybody's not like, why is Sheila being weird? Like, why can't we just eat at this restaurant? Instead, everybody's like, I don't know, her spidey sense said it, her spleen said it, so let's just go.
Right.
Like, you know, like, and then there's less of that judgment or whatever. So that's another one. So we've got a couple more authorities. We've got the heart or the ego authority, which is do what you want. You know, your heart's desire. Listen to your heart. Is your heart in it? Is your heart not in it? You know, I'm sure you've heard some of these phrases. You know, it's pulling you or it's drawing you in. This is one of the most straightforward authorities and very direct, because it's like, I want this. Like, it's what I want. I want it. That's all there is to it. And when you know, I set my heart to it type of thing. And these types are either going to be manifestors, which need to inform others, right? Like, I want this, and you're explaining that to others. And then projectors, they're going to wait for that invitation. And so only those two types are going to have this heart or ego authority. Then we've got our G center or our self authority, which, so the G center self authority, which is be true to yourself. So this is subtle inner guidance. It's this inner knowing. It's very gentle. It's the most difficult authority to grasp. And it just kind of knows what's right and wrong in uniquely personal terms. So it's like trusting your inner knowing, which, I like to think of the G center as like a compass that's guiding you. And so it's like trusting that compass needle that's pulling you towards something. And it has to be meaningful for you to want to do it. And you have to trust in your true nature. So a lot of all of these authorities, all body, all trusting the self. And then we've got the environmental authority, which it says it's not an inner authority, but it's accessing your intelligence. And these are just mental projectors. So they're very rare, and it's a unique authority. And they're receiving guidance from sensory information of the environment they're in based on their open centers, and it's how the environment feels to them. And then they also need to use like a soundboard to kind of listen to their own ideas, like have a friend that you trust that you're like telling like, hey, this is what's going on, and you're not listening for your friend's answer or your friend's response, right? That's irrelevant. It is how you feel as it's coming back at you. So it's still feeling in your body, listening. It's just how you're going about that's a little bit differently. And so, if you know somebody is an external environmental authority, then like you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just be your sounding board, right? Like you know they need that, and then you're not trying to be like, well, you should do this or you should do that, or blah blah blah. Like you're just like, yep, I'm just here for your to play it back to you. Just let's go.
Right.
And then we've got one more authority, and it's just the reflectors. It is the moon or the lunar cycle authority, and it's based on how their design connects to the lunar cycle and that 28-day cycle. And it's about slowing down, right? And not letting the world rush you. And over time, like just getting used to feeling through that cycle, you're going to get to this inner knowing and this inner sense of like, this decision is right for me, this is not right for me. And so what's fascinating to me about these authorities is most of them take time, other than the sacral yes, no. And our entire world is set up on buy now, quick, 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 hurry, hurry, fast. You're going to miss out. And all of these people, instead of listening to their bodies and their authorities, are being shoved into decision making. And then you end up purchasing something or doing something. And then you're like, oh gosh, like this feels yuck. And I didn't want to be here. And you have all this regret. And then it's like, well, yeah, because you're not listening to yourself. You're not listening to your body. We've designed this entire system for you to ignore all that. And then we wonder why things aren't working. But learning all this, you take your power back. You're like, no, I gotta wait a lunar cycle. Sorry, I gotta ride my emotional wave. I'll back in 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, yeah, awesome. Well,
so,
I was taking a ton of notes when you were sharing that. And would you happen to have like a little like reference sheet that we could share with our listeners in case they had any questions? Or I can just type up these notes. I mean,
oh no, this is a Word document, so I can send it to you.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking if I could share it like a Google Doc to them, to just let them see, like, you know, as they're listening, or if they wanted to reference it in, you know, like as they're listening, they could just click on the doc in the show notes and then, you know, have a reference sheet. And then, you know, just kind of give them an option just to see everything all laid out too, and to see like, oh, that might be mine. Yeah. So if you would like, if you want to share Jeff Jones's chart and just kind of share the information with him, I'm excited to see like what his information is.
I just have 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
This is going way back to like early on in what you were saying. How do people find out what their human design is?
Okay, so assuming you've got your birth date, time, and location. If you don't, you're calling hospitals, you're trying to find that pillow that's embroidered with your information on it, your baby book, your mom, or you're doing a birth time regression or something. I don't know how to do that, but that's like a thing that exists. And there's a few places to get your chart. There's Genetic Matrix, Jovian Archive. I think if you just Google free human design chart, at this point there's several free resources that come up. And then for an astrology chart, I like astro.com because it's free and you can go in and do more detailed chart selections. Now, if for the astrologers listening to this podcast, there are different types of astrology. Human design is specifically based on tropical astrology. So essentially, I think about the different types of astrology as if, imagine someone's taking the picture of the stars, and instead of standing here, they stood over there. Well, their picture looks a little bit different than yours. Same information, but it might be a slightly different because, again, we're calculating all of this. And there's different people who are like, well, my calculation's better than yours, or I like this calculation, or I prefer this one. So they're just slightly different camera angles is how I view it. But some astrologers only like sidereal. Some astrologers only like whole sign, or, there's these different things. But
right.
Human design specifically uses tropical.
Okay.
But there's some software out there that you can pay for that will incorporate different types of astrology. So for your high level people that want to know that, there's your information. Pay for Genetic Matrix. You can change it.
Yep.
And just real quick, before your second question, Jeffy, this is something you also offer, right? Like as a coach, is this something that somebody could get from you so they could get it from you?
Yes. So I will use those resources to get the chart, but I do like chart readings, or like I said, I'm making all my friends give me their chart, so I will coach someone and use their human design in our coaching, right? Like if you're trying to reach a goal or, you know, do the things that you want to do for you, it's okay, let's do it and let me help you in a way that works with you and works with how you work, instead of me trying to treat everyone as if they're me, because that's not true and that's not going to work.
Right.
And so I love to use human design in my coaching, because I'm like, I'm going to coach you based on who you are.
I love that, because it's not even it's more than just personalized. It's very specific to you. It's not just I have this generic coaching program. It's this is how you think, listen, act, be, and I'm going to incorporate my information to you. I love that. Yeah. Okay, sorry,
right.
Jeffy, next question.
Yep. Then my second question is, when somebody finds out what kind of human design type they are, what can they do to like follow that, or to assist in that, or to keep it going forward as it should?
The biggest things are the strategy, type, and authority, right? Like you can get super nitty gritty and down into like the details, but the big three are like how you're designed and how you need to react. Like if all I ever knew was like, I'm a manifesting generator and I'm an emotional authority and I just need to respond to things, like those are the things that I just keep coming back to. And then even higher than that, if you're like, okay, I don't believe in this hocus pocus, this is too woo woo, your intuition lives in your body. Start listening to your body wherever you hear it, however you feel it, and follow that. And so human design is described as an experiment. Like at no point is any of this that has come through like, this is how you are, this is who you have to be, and this is a limitation. This was never meant to be like something that boxes you in. It's meant to free you, and you're supposed to experiment with it. So play with it. Like this entire process is meant to be playful and fun. And if at any point you're like, well, I'm not allowed to do that because I'm a projector, or I can't do that because I'm a Manny-Gen, and I can't, no, like that's not the point. Like the point is just like, does this feel good? Does this work for you? Is that how you feel it? Great. Run wild. Make it easy for you. Make it fun.
I just wanted to add too, kind of with Jeff Jones's question too, and the information you just shared. So I took Jess's class. I found out all my information, and then one day all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, I just kind of wanted like just a little snippet of my human design, and I literally Googled manifesting generator sacral authority, and just this like 2-page snippet came up about me, everything about me, which was so true. And it was like, okay, this is you live your best life when you're doing this. It like, and it's not, when you wake up at 5 a.m. every day. It's not like that. It's generic enough so that you can make it fit your life, but it will kind of give you some direction. But I will add this. So I've had a theme in my life where I keep working for micromanagers, and in big, and I'm not making this up, in big bold letters right in the middle of the second page, it said manifesting generators cannot work for micromanagers, in large bold letters. And I was like, oh, that's it, you know what I mean? Like, because I always thought, like, what lesson am I not learning, or trying to look at it at a different angle. And it was literally right there, all in big bold, like, no, you cannot, it's not an option, right? And that's why it doesn't work out, because it squeezes me as a person, well, I mean, micromanaging squeezes everybody, but I just thought it was really funny that it was just right there. All right, do you want to get into Jeffy's chart?
Yeah. So
this
Jeff,
is you, Jeff Joe.
You're an emotional projector. So again, riding that emotional wave to make those decisions. And then projector, here to guide and, oversee, but you need to be invited. And I'm sure you felt real bitter at times in your life, because what I've noticed about projectors is like, it's like the things projectors can see, it's just like, that's so obvious to me. That's so obvious. And so you want to go to the person or go to the group and be like, guys, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is not working. Do you not see this? And then everybody's like, what are you talking about? Like, until they are ready, until they want to see it, they will not accept your information. They will not hear you. And you'll just be like pulling your hair out because you're like, this is so obvious. Why won't anybody listen to me? But it's that wait for the invitation piece, right? Because they have to be ready to hear it from you. And if they're not, they're not.
I could see that this kind of happened at work, right? Like, just recently you had a situation where you knew something that was happening, right? You knew what was going to happen. Somebody was doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And then you knew, and then you didn't say anything until your boss came to you and was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where are you at with this? And you're like, oh, this is what's been happening the whole time. And
yep.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's that's the waiting for the invitation. So had you try to go in earlier and do it, people may not have been as receptive because they don't, it's like, unless they want to pull the wool off their eyes, they don't want somebody coming in and ripping it off type of thing.
Right.
And,
So going forward, if this happens and somebody says, hey, why didn't you tell me earlier? Say, look, man, I'm an emotional projector. I need to be invited. You didn't invite me, so I can't give you the information.
I will say it. There was a point where my boss called me and he was like, hey, why didn't you call me about this? And I'm like, it wasn't on me. I would, you know what I mean? I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then when he finally got some information about it and he called me and was like, hey, is this right? And you're like, yeah. I mean, and again, it was because I don't want to say like I wasn't invited to give him the information, but I didn't want to be that guy.
Right.
Somebody else was that guy. He just called me to confirm what that guy was saying. It's like, yeah.
And sometimes maybe there's always an open invitation, but it depends. Like, this is situation, relationship specific. And so waiting is a big piece of pretty much all the designs except for manifestors. But you're still informing before you go do it, right? Like, so it's not just that Jenny and I are responding. We have to wait to respond because, like, I can't make everything appear in front of me always to respond to, right? So we're waiting to respond. You're waiting for the invitation. Reflectors are waiting a lunar cycle. Like, they're waiting a long time. Like, but the thing I found really cool, so how I like to look at a human design chart is I like to look at where does something fall, like, not only is your sun sign in Virgo, right? Like, that's cool. You probably knew you were a Virgo. Hello, fellow Virgo. But it's in your crown chakra. So, like, just even being able to put those two things together, like, oh, like, I'm a Virgo, but mine's in my heart center. But you're a Virgo and it's in your crown chakra. And, that Virgo energy is like the helper, control. It's very logical, efficient, idealistic. And it happens to fall in your 12th house, which is like spirituality, healing, subconscious. And, and that's what I mean by putting the puzzle pieces together. Like, here is my sun sign. Here is the house that it's in. Here is the chakra or the center that it's in. Here, here are these pieces, and put those puzzle pieces together and then do that for each placement. And in astrology, they talk about the big three. So, like, the big three in human design is strategy, type, and authority. Whereas in astrology, they talk about sun sign, moon sign, and ascendant. And so, like, we're now piecing these things together. We're now adding new pieces in. Like, your moon sign is in the 6th. So you had, like, I looked up your your sun, your earth is specific to human design, your moon, your north and your south node, and all of them were either in Virgo or Pisces, and 6th and 12th house. So there's this like big balance thing going on in your chart. Like your north node is in the 12th house with your sun sign, then your south node and your moon sign and your earth were all in the 6th house in Pisces. And Pisces is like that dreamer, death and rebirth energy, ideals, duality, intuitive, subconscious. The sixth house is actually where Virgo's home is. So you've got like, it's like you flopped the chart over, and it's so interesting because you've got like this like Virgo Pisces energy, because Pisces is like out there, you know, it's the fish swimming, whereas Virgo is like, you know, getting shit done, doing stuff, like very efficient, you know, organized. You had a ton of Virgo energy. You had a lot of Virgo stuff all in the 12th house.
I'm told that I got a lot of Virgo energy.
Yeah, like I think your Mercury and your Venus and Saturn were all also in Virgo. So like you had a ton of stuff in Virgo. And like this is like the lens you view the world with, and like I don't know, it was just really fun to kind of see like, oh, fun, because I have a lot of Virgo energy too, but mine is very different in my chart, and I'm a Manny Gen, so very different type of energy.
Question on his, so if the one information's like in his crown chakra, is that how he's getting information? Like is that where he's feeling things? So it'd be like he would get it through like ideas or things like that. So this is super interesting because I asked Jeff Jones on a different episode, I said, do you ever feel like information, do you get like messages in your body? And he was like, no. And so he doesn't feel it in his body. So if he's getting it in his mind, that would kind of make sense, right? Because it's not from his neck down.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Well, so I looked up your sun and earth are both in your root chakra. And so
mine?
It's not, yes.
Yeah. So I like feel everything lower. And actually, yes. I don't know if I told you or not, but since I was little, like if I'm just sitting there, I will start moving. I just start, yes. It's not like rocking, but I can feel like I'm moving with a heartbeat almost. And I know it's from my root chakra. Yeah.
Ooh, fun. Oh,
yeah.
See, this, like, I love it because it's like, okay, we start to take these puzzle pieces, and I like to have people put it together and feel like what words feel true for you, right? Because I could say Virgo is the helper, or Virgo's very logical, and some Virgos are going to be way more drawn to like logic than they are to being a helper, or you know what I mean? So it's like, what words are resonating with you, and then like put your puzzle together, like look at all those pieces and see what makes sense and what feels true for you, and then what makes your life easier, what makes this, how can you use this to make everything easier for you, right? Because this is about how you operate and move around the world. So it's like, what pieces of that are like, oh, okay, that helps me. And so, yeah. But I mean, the biggest things are being an emotional projector and, you know, waiting for that invitation. And then these are just like the little details. Like, let's dive into the details of it. And you can go as far as you want. Like, we can look up gate 64. We can look up, you know, all these pieces. And then, which is why I said this is an Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, right? Because like, well, then you could do that for every single placement on the black side, every single placement on the red side. That's 26 different placements. You know, at some point it's like, is this helping me or is this too much information? And so I like to try to keep it like top level, like, oh, your sun and your earth. So your sun is where you shine. Your earth is where you're grounded. And that's all up in your crown center, which is, you know, how does that feel for you? Where does that come through? And, you know, being a Virgo who's grounded in Pisces, right? Like Virgos, you know, like it's just very practical, very like, you know, it is what it is. Whereas Pisces is like a little bit more flowy and like intuitive and subconscious, but that's where you feel very grounded at. But again, for you, it's all up in your crown chakra. So that's very different than like Jen, who's like root Cancer Capricorn, sun sign in Cancer, root in Capricorn, you know, like, and it's like playing with that. Like, what does that mean to you? And like you were saying, like, oh, this makes sense. I've had this experience since I was little. Look at how it's playing out.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because there's time, like Jeff Jones and I have a lot of really good conversations of, you know, what do you think about this? And he doesn't, he shared too, he doesn't, there's some things he just doesn't know about, you know, or it's not that he doesn't believe it, it's just he doesn't know about it, you know. But like, it's funny because I was always woo-woo and he was always like conspiracy theory, like sharing different information over here, right? Like, so that's what's funny when you said the fish swimming around. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like him, like in his fun stories and like all this. And it's kind of funny because it's like woo woo on the other end of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
yeah. But still very logical. Like, I mean, if he's like, I don't know, that sounds like some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, he'll say it, and I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
Like the conspiracy theory has to have like a progression of evidence that makes sense, because that Virgo is just like, well, it has to make, but your Virgo in your 12th house, which is like mysterious. So it's like, yeah, I'm like into this conspiracy theory, but you got to give me enough information.
Right. Yeah. And like, well, what if, you know what I mean? Or like, why did this even start? Or where did this come from? Or yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or do you want to just share, you know, how people can find you, or what's a good segue here?
Did you guys have any other questions and, you know, anything like that? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I'm
inviting you, Jeff. Do you have questions?
Oh, right.
I know. No, I'm trying to come up with anything. No,
Yeah.
I do not.
I think it'd be super helpful, you know, if the listener goes and gets their chart, you know, and then if they have questions, you know, they can go look up information. I mean, I know there's a tons of resources, and like you're saying, it's a rabbit hole you can go down.
Yeah.
But I did find it super helpful if you don't feel like you're in alignment, if you don't feel right in your body, if you don't feel like information is flowing, or you just really feel like at a crossroads of, I need something different and nothing else is working, this is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just know, like, just grab your birth certificate, or if you already know your date, time, and place, I mean, it's easy to find out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you just, I mean, we live in the world of Google. You just say, hey, Google, give me a free, you know, astrology chart, give me a human design chart, and it'll give you all those wonderful links to go.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Wild Goddess Revolution. I think you can find me on Facebook. I'm pretty sure I'm on all the socials as that in some capacity, so you should be able to find me.
So if somebody needs some, like a chart reading, is that something they could reach out and schedule with you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. I would recommend
Wild
that.
Goddess Revolution?
Yes.
Yeah. I recommend
Wild Goddess Revolution. Yeah, I do chart readings. And so, you had mentioned the workshop I had done. I'm trying to transition that into like a way to do it online, so that people that aren't, you know, local to me can do it, and I can give you these resources electronically. We can get on Zoom and, you know, turn it into that type of thing. So I am working on that. I find this so fascinating, and, you know, I have a son who's a manifester, and, you know, knowing that about him has helped me understand him so much better, because he is initiating things so fast that, like, he's 20 activities ahead of me, and I'm trying to, like, just deal with the one he started. But like, instead of being like, oh my God, like, well, I'll still get a little frustrated because, you know, trying to live in my alignment over here. But I'm not like, I'm like, oh, I get this. I need to teach him how to inform. So like, it's helpful to understand yourself, but then it's helpful to like look up your family members and the people that you live with to be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Or like, you know, as an emotional authority, like, oh, if we're gonna buy a new house or buy a new car, like a bigger decision, like I know he's gonna need to ride, you know, Jeff's gonna need to ride his wave, and I can't pressure him into a decision right then. Whereas Jenny, we get on the car lot and you're gonna be like, oh, I feel it, like that was a yes. Or you test drive it, you feel it in your body.
I know.
Like,
that's why I cannot. The minute I get in it, it's mine. You know what I mean? That's why I cannot.
Yeah, but like that helps your partner know, like, oh, I need to ask them like this, or like, you know, I like a sacral person, yes, no questions are really helpful for. Or an emotional person, it's like, hey, I'm gonna give you all this information, and then I'm gonna like leave you alone and like let you process that. And like, I've also noticed as an emotional authority, if you can't get to clarity or a neutral answer, sometimes it means you don't have enough information. And I've seen that for some of the authorities, like you can get a yes or no, but not like a yes or no on like part of it, but not the whole thing, because it's like you don't have enough information. So also use this to, you know, be able to say like, hey, I have some questions. I need some more information. And, you know, you can play around with this, right? Like, you know, take a picture of something and see, you know, am I still getting that yes, no later? Am I still, you know, riding a high or feeling a low on this? Or, you know, when you're talking it out, be like, oh, you know, like play around with this. Play around with where you're feeling it, what you're feeling. And for people who are like, you know, that's great. You can also think about it retrospectively, right? Like when in your life have you made decisions that ended up being like really great or really awful? And what were you listening to? Where did you feel that in your body? What, you know, what were those factors at play? Because I know people who don't know anything about human design, but they just trust themselves, and you can watch them be in alignment with their human design. Like they don't have to know anything about it to be doing this and practicing it. And so, you know, think about, you know, when did stuff work for me? When didn't it? What happened? And you can start to play around with like, oh, that feeling was right. That was what I was meant to listen to. Or, oh yeah, I did listen to that feeling. Holy crap, that turned out great.
Yeah. As you were talking to, I literally just heard like group, like family readings. So what I was going to suggest is like, what if somebody is like, if there's a family of you and you're like, look, we just don't understand each other and like we cannot communicate. Like if everybody could get their chart, and if you could offer like a family review, you know what I mean? To just say, okay, Jenny, you're a manifesting generator with sacral authority, blah, blah, blah. So you this. And then everyone else can hear what type of person they are to open up communication for those other people and go, oh yeah, okay. So when I communicate with him or her, I need to talk to him this, and I know I need to invite Jeff Jones, and I need to, you know, give this person 28 moon days. I mean, no one who has that kind of time, but I mean, like, what do you say? Like, hey, in 30 days, do you want to come over? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, come see me at the next lunar cycle.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Well, you
yeah,
busy?
I don't think they have to wait on little questions.
Okay.
It's like these are like your big life questions.
Yeah.
So reflectors are gonna get, you know, used to being like, oh yeah, that's a yes for me, or oh, that's a no for me. Like they don't have to wait 28 days for everything. But, you know,
yeah,
I feel like going through that process of feeling your way through a decision for that long, then you get faster at being like, oh, like that, you know, I know where and what to listen to.
Yes.
But yes, I have even done, so I have a group of friends from college that I had done readings for each of them, but we all came, and it was so funny because like as I'm doing each person's reading, everyone's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's so them. That's so them. That makes so much sense. Like, of course, that's how they are. And then the person receiving the reading is just like, was thinking like, oh, you're just going to say the same thing for everybody else. And then a few readings in, they're like, oh, wow, like, no, like these are very specific to each person. And, you know, we had known each other for years at that point. And
Yeah.
so it was like reinforcing of like, yeah, this is who this person is. Like, you're not going to change them. It's learning how to coexist with them, learning how to work together with each other and understand each other and just kind of respect them for who they are.
Yes.
And, you know, also I love human design. I love astrology. I love the chakras because it's like learning to listen to and trust you and how you work. And it's like, if you need a permission slip, right? Like how you said, just like tell your boss, like, I'm an emotional projector. Sorry. Yeah. Like it gives you that permission slip to be like, this is who I am and how I operate. Like, too bad. Like,
yeah. And you can't argue with it. You know what I mean? Like, it is not up for negotiation. And something's going to give. That's the thing. Is if something is not in alignment, something's got to give.
Oh, for sure. Like, the generator types are worker bees, but if they hate the work they're doing and they're miserable, they're like trying to work in sludge. They're not going to, it's going to be terrible.
Right.
But if your worker bee is real excited about the work they're doing, or your projector has been invited and they feel seen, or your manifester is like informing and doing it and supported by the group around them, right? Like, these people are going to operate differently. They're going to operate with ease and it's going to be fun. And that's going to look a lot different than when things aren't in alignment. And so, but it can be really hard, right? Like the B word, setting boundaries, like being able to trust yourself, listen to yourself, and tell other people no. Like,
yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited for people to like get their chart, find out more information about them, and really just be able to step into their power because they know more about themselves. That the information's non-negotiable, and it is what it is. Literally.
I like that all of it combines like the astral part of it with like the chakra part, with the tree of life part. Like there's so many different elements that are incorporated into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
And speaking of alignment, I just wanted to add for the listeners too, Jess what was your corporate job?
I was a polymer chemist. So I have a doctorate in chemistry. And now I teach yoga and I'm a coach and I, read people's stars.
Yeah, but see, you worked for a chemical company that smelled up the whole city here, right? Yeah. And that job did not work out, which was a shock, I guess. I mean, because you moved here for it. And then it didn't work out, and then the universe just shoved you right into somewhere else.
Well, and it wasn't in alignment. Like, I was coming home crying. I was not happy. I didn't like, what we were doing, how we were doing it. But that was the path I was told you had to go on, right? Like,
yeah.
You go to college, you get the job, you do the things. And, the day they let me go, I was crying, but I walked out smiling because I was like, this isn't what I'm here for. Like, this is not working. Yeah. But I also understand science, and I like everything in the spiritual community, all the woo stuff. I'm like, it's just physics. It's just energy. It's just science that we don't always have the right words for, or the technology yet to explain. But like, here's this blueprint. You can believe it or not, but if it helps you, then it's totally worth it. And just have fun while you're doing it. And like how Jeff was saying, like it combines all these aspects. Like there's a woman locally here who studied acupuncture and was very familiar with the I Ching, and then got into human design and the gene keys through that, right? So it's like, which piece do you like? Which part of the rabbit hole? Pick a tunnel.
Yeah.
What speaks to you? And it gives you these opportunities to play and learn more in a way that works for you.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I love it too. thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited to share this with our listeners and to give them a new perspective and another option. That's what we want to do on this podcast is, just share new and exciting information, and new ways to live a better life, and just have options.
Right.
I mean, choices. A lot of people feel like they don't have choices and they're stuck, and, there's more to life than what if you are stuck. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Sharing all that. It's
Good
awesome.
times.
It's a new tool for the toolbox.
Right?
Yeah.
And it is.
I love that. And yes, so when you get if you have an online class, feel free to let us know. We'll advertise it. And I would love to go back through that again, and just bring my chart. I would love to do that. Can you share the chart with Jeff? Can you email me the chart for Jeff Jones, and I'll share that with him so he could see like the outline and the electrical circuits and
excellent
all the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I have some things on my Instagram like this means this, and this is why this is this. Because, for a long time it felt like, where is everybody getting their information? Like they weren't sharing their books and their resources, and there's like a handful of books that you can get if you want to, or here's how it connects together, and then like go have fun.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jess. We'll catch up again soon, and thanks, Jeffy. I know you gotta get off here and go race, and
I gotta go pick my kid up from a date.
Oh, do you?
I didn't have to take him and drop him off, but I have to go pick him up.
Oh shoot. Happy dating, children's.
15.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We'll be having the talk.
Speaking of human design and electrical circuits. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. You can find Jess again at Wild Goddess Revolution on all the socials. And if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to email us, feelthegenergy@gmail.com. And we'll see you again next week. Have an awesome one.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, girl.